football game against Houston in the state of Texas in a couple of days, but he knows Gardner Minshew very well. He coached him at Washington State. We welcome Mike Leach to the show. How you doing, Coach?
I'm doing good. How are you guys doing?
We're doing fantastic. Thanks so much for taking some time with us. We won't keep you too long. I know you got a busy day getting ready for that football game on Friday. All right, what are your thoughts? Gardner Minshew's getting the start this week in the NFL, week 2, as a rookie quarterback. How cool is that?
I'm excited for Gardner. Gardner's a great player, and I'll tell you, Gardner came about a year from just sort of checking out and being a coach, but it's really, I think, fulfilling to a lot of us to see Gardner in the NFL, and he played well last week. I think he'll play even better this week, although, over time he'll adjust and be even better down the road.
I don't want to be flippant about this, but you just brought up something that I actually wanted to ask you. If I would have given you a scenario 18 months ago, maybe even 12 months ago, that in September of 2019, week 2 of the NFL season, Gardner Minshew would be the starting quarterback of the Jacksonville Jaguars against the Houston Texans, or a coach or grad coach or assistant coach somewhere else, which would you have picked?
Well, let me just say this. Once he got drafted, I thought he would be the number 2. I thought, with rare exception, whatever team he got on, he'd be the number 2. And then, from that standpoint, now I didn't expect Nick Foles to get injured, but in the event that the starter did get injured, then, of course, I thought Gardner would play.
Hey there, Coach. Austin Lane. So we've been hearing a lot about Gardner Minshew's leadership and how he's already commanded the respect of that Jaguars locker room. And one would assume that he commanded that respect right away at Washington State. I mean, coming, from Alabama, going to Washington State, all the stories that I read, it kind of seemed like he earned the respect of his teammates before he even stepped on the field week 1 against Wyoming. What do you attest to that? How did he gain the respect so fast?
Well, he was able to do it really quickly. He'd been – one thing that I think helped Gardner, and I don't recall Gardner out of high school, but he went to a number of teams. Went to Troy, went to JC in Mississippi, then he went to East Carolina. Never did go to Alabama. We intercepted him in between, but we were fortunate to get him, and we were kind of between quarterbacks that had ever started. And Gardner had started some games. Split some time there at East Carolina. But, I think having been at all those places, he had some experience as far as adjusting to a locker room and what was important, and probably could compare and contrast some from a healthy situation and a less healthy situation. When he came to our place, which he wasn't able to come until mid-May, what I thought was most impressive, maybe the most impressive thing he did, was within a month integrate himself into our locker room. And then when we went to camp, it was literally a war between 3 quarterbacks who was going to be the starter. And they were good quarterbacks. And I'm talking about 2 guys that, one of them starting for us now, and the other could definitely start in the Pac-12. And then I felt like Gardner had the edge in particular because the team just rose and rallied around him. And and I'll tell you this, too. Gardner had when Gardner first played at Jacksonville, he played better than when he first played for us. The first half of Wyoming was tough. Second half, he kind of got a rhythm, played well, and then just took off from there. And but I think he's going to do great things there at Jacksonville. Or anytime he's on the field, that other people around him play better.
This is Gardner Minshew's football team right now, at least for the next couple of months, the rookie 6th-round pick out of Washington State. We are talking right now with Mike Leach, the head football coach at Washington State, who coached Gardner Minshew right here on Action Sports Jax on ESPN 690. Thanks to Coach for taking some time. You have to let everybody know, because I can't do this, although I've tried to illustrate it. I didn't play football. But I think the most impressive thing and the hard thing for us outside of the football world, the X's and O's, the locker room, the team meeting, the sideline, of what Minshew did the other day was show so much composure and knowledge of the offense 10 minutes into a football season where he probably figured he'd never see the field in 2019 once the preseason ended. How impressive, and I guess how much does that show the smarts of this guy that he was able to do that, take the playbook, take the team meetings, and put it out on the field when the real action was flying in an NFL regular season game?
You know what I honestly think, and listen, sports isn't a place for rational people. Sports is a better place for irrational people because there's no great comebacks unless it's unexpected. You know, there's no great achievement unless it's unexpected. Just knowing Gardner and how he thinks and just his natural course of optimism and and he wouldn't be troubled by facts on this particular issue. He'd be more tied to the passion of things. I really believe in the back of his mind and his heart somewhere, he felt like he'd be on the field at some point this year. Now, that may be true, that may not be true, but he is one of those guys that really believes somehow I'm going to just find a way.
Coach, it's funny how he's already become kind of like a folk hero here in Jacksonville. He hasn't been here that long. And I remember when I met him at the Senior Bowl, that was an interview that I just had to get because of reading all the stories about him in Washington State. I figured it would make for a great interview, and spoiler alert, it did. My question to you is, especially with professional athletes now, it's all about branding, right? It's about how you dress, how you come across on social media, and then you can parlay that to other opportunities. I mean, speaking with Gardner Minshew, I get the sense that he's not really concerned with the branding. Whether it's his mustache, his headband, or he's rocking jean shorts, I just feel like that's who he is as a person. Is that pretty accurate?
Very accurate, very authentic guy. Just very, very straightforward, incredibly straightforward. I mean, he's one of those guys that whatever he's doing, he's going to make it cool one way or the other because he's so enthusiastic about it. And then, some are going to follow him as a result of his enthusiasm towards it. But he doesn't have a lot of distractions as far as, keeping up with other stuff. And I think that also helps his focus, too. I think he's very focused because he's not preoccupied with fitting in or doing it the same way everybody else is doing it.
Sounds like you might be describing yourself, Coach. Is that why you guys got along so well? You guys are pretty authentic, genuine. You are who you are, comfortable in your own skin.
I related to him extremely well. We had a great relationship and still do, and I related to him extremely well, and I did feel like we thought about things the same way.
Washington State coach Mike Leach with us here on Action Sports Jax on ESPN 690. Only going to keep you a couple more minutes because I know you got to get ready for a football game against Houston in the state of Texas on Friday. That's just a couple of days away. We really appreciate you taking the time. What did you say to Gardner? I saw your news conference over the weekend, or maybe it was Monday, and I think you texted him. Have you talked to him since? What did you text him?
Basically, told him, I thought he did a heck of a job and that we were all proud of him.
Yeah, I bet they are. Is there a lot of talk about him back there in Pullman?
Yeah, throughout our staff and players. I mean, people are still texting him back and forth all the time, and everybody's updating everybody on what Gardner's up to or whether it's this play or, the first play we updated everybody on was he went in that preseason game and got smoked right away. Somebody didn't block somebody in the A-gap and got blown up. And in typical Gardner fashion, we were all impressed that he didn't let go of the ball. But he's got big, strong hands. But he got smoked. And so then we're all telling everybody. But then after that, he rallied out of that and ended up playing pretty well in that preseason game. And then here you kind of got a little network that's everybody's updating everybody on what he's doing. Yeah,
he showed resiliency and toughness in that game against Baltimore. I mean, he got popped. You're right. He got smoked in that game. You just mentioned strong hands. The knock on him is arm strength and obviously size. He's about 6'1", and in the NFL, everybody wants to be 6'3", 6'4", maybe even 6'5". He's got to play for 2 months now. I know he got off to a good start, but will any of those kind of things catch up to him at the NFL level? Are you afraid of that at all?
Well, he's real accurate, and his arm's plenty strong enough. And it was funny because the scouts would call me up. They'd say, "Well, how's his arm strength?" And I'd say, "Better, better than average," which it is better than average. And then I'd say, "How accurate is he?" "Oh, he's real accurate." "How is he?" With the team, outstanding. Can he check at the line of scrimmage? And of course, we check at the line of scrimmage a lot. I mean, he can check at the line of scrimmage right now better than most of the NFL can check at the line of scrimmage. And part of it is because he's got more experience at it than a lot of the NFL does. And then, and I knew this was coming. And then they'd go, well, okay, now his size, how big is he? I go, he's exactly the same height as the all-time leading passer in the history of the NFL, and he's 10 pounds heavier. How about that? And then there'd just be a long silence on the other end, because and we'd have to measure him for sure. But I do think he's the same height as Drew Brees, and I do believe he's 10 pounds heavier. Maybe he's 15. I don't know.
Well, he's probably 10 pounds heavier and probably can squat probably 200 pounds more than Drew Brees as well. I've seen Gardner Minshew work out before. He's a big dude. Coach, one last question for you from my end here. Obviously Gardner speaks very highly of you, the influence you've had at him at the quarterback position. My question to you is, what was the biggest thing that you take away from coaching Gardner? What has he taught you from a football player perspective?
Say that again. What was he like? What?
No, I'm just wondering, what was the biggest thing that you took away from being his coach for a year?
Well, the thing is, and you constantly get reminded of some of the same things that and like lessons you've learned that need to be reinforced, even with you as a coach. But, and we have 3 goals around here, which is be a team, be the most excited to play. He personified being the most excited to play and being the best at doing your job. And his dedication to doing that was at a whole different level.
Leave us on this, because you're one of the best to ever do it in terms of tell stories. But when you're sitting on the porch in Pullman someday, or maybe you're already doing it at breakfast or lunch, or however, when people ask you about Gardner Minshew, what's the story you tell?
Oh, well, there's a bunch of them, of course, and he was always calm and collected in a game. I mean, he didn't put too many bad players together. He was great at not taking a loss. But I guess one of the best I knew that he really, really wanted to compete and play because these quarterbacks that are available end up on the computer somewhere. And then as we're looking at it, then he's already committed to Alabama. And then, but we needed a quarterback. We also knew that they had a pile of them. We also knew that they weren't going to throw it very much. And then, so we called him up and basically said, and this has been written about, but I did say this. I said, you want to hold a clipboard at Alabama, or you want to lead the nation in passing at Washington State? And then, within a couple of days, he visited here and then came here, and off we went.
There you go. Bingo. The rest is history at Washington State, and we'll see where the history takes us here in Jacksonville. I bet you've learned this, Coach. The 904 area code in Jacksonville. I know you're getting a lot of calls about Gardner Minshew. We appreciate you taking a few minutes here on a Wednesday afternoon in Jacksonville to share some stories about Gardner.
Well, that's outstanding, because I used to live at some of my fondest memories are coaching at Valdosta State just right up the road. So
Absolutely.
I used to go through Jacksonville all the time.
Thanks so much. Hey, good luck Friday night against Houston, and good luck the rest of the way this season. Mike Leach, head coach at Washington State. Appreciate your time.
All right. Thank you.
You bet.